Just follow your heart, follow your instincts, ask questions. Never let anyone say no to you. Hi everyone, my name is Raashi Sikka. I work at Uber. I'm based in the wonderful city of Amsterdam, and I lead diversity and inclusion for Uber across Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and our global Uber Eats business. What I do, it's really hard to describe what I do in a nutshell, but essentially I am helping make my organization a much more diverse and inclusive place where people from all walks of life, people from different, aspects of identity, different groups, all feel like they're able to thrive and reach their highest potential, whatever that might be for each individual in the organization. I think for us at Uber, we started our journey on diversity and inclusion about 3.5, 4 years ago in a formal way. That's when we officially set up a diversity and inclusion team, hired people like myself to focus on it in a formal manner. Before we had a formal team, of course, informally, from a grassroots perspective, there were tons of employees like myself who were really passionate about just making the company a much better place, making the company more inclusive for everyone to thrive. On a typical day, my day kind of is there is no day is really the same in the work that I do. When we think about diversity and diversity and inclusion strategies, the way that we're approaching it is very systemic. How do we build inclusion at the core of everything that we do at Uber? So when we first started off in our journey, we realized that there were some things in our people systems and our processes. So think of, when you look at a job description as a potential candidate, to the interview experience that you might have with the organization, all the way to, when you get hired and you get to know how much, you're going to be potentially earning in the job, to being an employee, and then eventually, if you exit the company, what that experience looks like. So what is that life cycle of an employee? And we realized that there were some moments, there were some patterns that we were noticing where things could be just much more better. They could be more inclusive than they actually were. So the approach that we took was, how do we fix this at the root? How do we fix this systemically so that every single individual in the company has an experience that is equitable and inclusive for them, regardless of where they come from? So that was the approach that we took. So when we think about, our diversity and inclusion strategy, it stems across, what we call our 3 main pillars. So it's the workforce, who's in the organization, what does representation look like? Our workplace, what does the culture of our organization stand for? Is it inclusive? Is it not? Where are there gaps? And then our marketplace, which is truly, how do we take that experience and expertise and inclusion and apply it into our products and services as a company? So that's really how we've been focusing on diversity and inclusion. And that's how my day as well is structured, thinking about, diversity and inclusion from 3 or 4 different perspectives. In comparison to a more traditional older organization, I think one of the things that you sense is the pace. It's a really fast moving organization. Sometimes I joke that change is the only constant in an organization like ours. It's, things are happening super fast. You sometimes have to make really, really quick decisions based off of little information most of the time. So you're trying your best to be super analytical, but sometimes you're also using, gut instinct, experience from the past to make some of those decisions. There's a lot of collaboration as well that happens in an organization like ours. It's very it's a highly matrixed organization, which means that there are many different functions and teams working together to solve a problem. So it's really exciting. It's a really exciting informal working atmosphere. So, no one's really wearing a suit, but if you want to, of course, that's completely your prerogative. There's no real dress code in the organization, but it's a really fun place to work, especially if you enjoy the fast-paced work environment, if you enjoy, making friends at work as well. It's a fairly young organization, given, just given the way that we do our work as well. I think when I was 17, I was, just finishing my in India we call them board exams, which is your 12th grade, your A levels, you name it. And India is very, very competitive, similar to most other parts of the world. And getting good grades means that you get access to some of the best schools, best universities in the country. So it's really highly competitive. So I think when I was 17, 18, I was in the process of figuring out, what do I want to do with my life? Where am I going to go from here? And it's unfortunate that one grade kind of dictates, in many ways where you end up for your higher education. I happened to get fairly good grades. I had the opportunity to pick and choose, from a few different schools. But I kind of surprised my parents when I was 17 or 18 years old. Instead of going the more traditional route of, studying economics or, something of that nature, I decided instead to do my bachelor's in mass media and mass communication. Because that was just something I loved. Storytelling, books, if you could tell by my bookcase, I love reading. It's always been a passion of mine. And I was just fascinated by, the art of storytelling through different forms of media. So I decided to do something very different from, what my parents had done, and pursue a career in communication and mass media. It's a funny story, but I actually said yes to, I got my admission in another college to study economics. And that was my first choice. And I was super excited to be able to get that opportunity. And then this other college where I had applied to for studying mass media and communication reached out to me and said, hey, we actually have a spot open for you. And I had already started, I think I was day 2 in my, in the economics degree. And I just decided that that's not what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do mass media and mass communication. So I kind of made that shift after 2 days of, my induction and everything else. I think for me, I think I've always used my gut instinct a lot to help me make decisions. I remember having conversations with my parents, with family friends, with, cousins, whoever was around me who could give me some advice and who'd done this before I had. And everyone's like, that's so stupid. You should just do what you're doing. That sounds like such a great opportunity. Why would you leave this college to go to this other one? But something in my, in my heart just told me that that's what I wanted to do. And I went for it, even against the advice of many people. So for me, I think, as I share my story, you'll see that pattern. I have the tendency of listening to my heart and my gut, and doing sometimes something quite instinctive versus strategic. And I've been fortunate that most of those decisions have panned out and they've worked out for me in a good way. Just follow your heart, follow your instincts, ask questions, never let anyone say no to you. You are amazing. You can make so much change happen in this world. So never take no for an answer. Follow your heart and be super, super curious. I think that's one piece. I know I said maybe 5 different things in that, but that truly is one piece. The other thing is don't sweat the small stuff. Right. And I think I kind of said that earlier, but things are going to happen, right? Things are going to happen. And in that moment, it's going to feel awful. It's going to feel like the world is ending. But truly, in the bigger scheme of things, it's a small little blip in time. So don't sweat the small stuff. And it kind of goes hand in hand with another quote that I'm, from Mahatma Gandhi, which is be the change. And I've always believed in being the change and making change happen. So this quote from Angela Davis really sums it up for me. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept.